What is up, Terps fans? Welcome into another Fear the Podcast. It's refreshing to come to you a day after getting the biggest recruitment probably in Maryland basketball history and an overtime win. We're going to talk a lot about that recruitment here today. And to join me is the man who put together all of your incredible content about Baba Oladotun's really good commitment, production, the ceremony, everything about it. Mike was super cool. So I've got Mike Creppy Mike Creppy Jr. Joining me here. Mike is the man. We're going to get into all the great stuff he does basketball content wise. But Mike, first of all, just thanks for coming on, man. And how exciting was that to be a part of last night?
No, thanks for having me, Matt. And you and I go back, so this is pretty cool to do, especially after
Same.
yesterday. No, it was amazing. Bob. One thing I can say, Bob and his family, they're very, simple people, right? They
Sure.
are very much about their faith. Everything you see about them is who they are. They're really not about the big celebrations and things like that. Of course, they're proud and everything like that. But
Mhm.
I kind of push the issue, saying, hey, like this is something that happens once in a lifetime.
Yeah. Special night.
You guys have put in the work. Let him get his flowers. Let you guys, as the parents and the
Mhm.
family, get your flowers. See a lot of familiar faces, people that have been involved at different parts of the process,
Yep.
and it was just a beautiful thing to see yesterday.
Yeah, the turnout looked really cool. I wasn't there in person. I was at the Maryland
Mhm.
game, but just seeing it through for what you guys put together, like the show out, showing from the community there was awesome, and that says a lot about him. The person that these many people
Mhm.
would want to come out and support him. Before we get into it, let's talk about you, Michael Creppy Jr. Right, like for
Who
folks who
am
aren't
I?
familiar, you are a hooper through and through here. For anybody who wants to know anything about overseas basketball, Mike literally wrote the book on it and now produced the documentary on it. It's imported.
Mhm.
It's on Hulu and Disney Plus. It's just a great watch. It features our guy James Gist. For any Terps fans out there, definitely another reason to go check it out. But Mike, have you been passing along any pro basketball knowledge to Bobo along the way here? You giving him any tips on his game or anything while you're at it too, or is this strictly just helping him with the content?
No, so I've known Bob actually before he was born. I've literally saw
Okay,
it from day one. Yeah,
that's so
I knew
cool.
his dad.
Mm-hmm.
His dad has known me since I was 15,
Okay.
14, 15. We just met at the same gym,
Mm-hmm.
the gym where we all met. And Lindsay Pulliam, who's also imported in the
Yep.
doc that we featured, she was a all Big Ten player at Northwestern. So we all met at the same gym. And,
That's cool.
his dad saw me going through high school. And actually played at Blake as well,
Mm-hmm.
graduated from Blake, one of the premier players there.
The OGs. That's right.
Yeah. So like I like to say, I was probably the best player there before he came. So we have that running joke with us. But and that's verifiable. I had some pretty big games and everything. And I saw it from the beginning. Like the dad, Ibrahim, he's a brilliant man when it comes to this process. So from there, we've been working with him. Literally from, if I am being accurate, probably age 6.
Okay.
And Baba was always a kid that once you showed him something, he picked it up right away. So like when he says that I was born for this, I love this. This is what I've been looking forward to my whole life. He literally has been looking forward to it his whole life. And he's probably one of the most unique, just not only kids, but people I've met. And he's
Mm-hmm.
only 16,
That's cool.
right? I've never once heard him complain about working out. And he works out.
That says
My
something.
workouts are pretty legendary. And,
Sure.
people that know me know that. I'm impressed with how he works out, and that says a lot because I'm not easily impressed when it comes to work ethic, especially, from somebody that has so much hype around him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a kid that buys into the hype. He's still all about the work. Like right now, he's at Blair O'Donovan, a healthy baller, finishing up a workout.
That's cool.
So the day after. So I mean, he's a trendsetter. He's a trailblazer. I'm sure we'll get into it, but he left the powerhouse, the Mather, goes to his neighborhood school, James Hubert Blake High School, first team All Med, goes high major Division 1, had endless offers, and he chooses to stay at Maryland, which is something historically that doesn't happen with the top recruit in the country. So
Yeah.
Maryland doesn't get those guys
Not
traditionally for
not
whatever
much.
reason.
Yep.
And so obviously there are myriad of reasons as to why,
Sure.
but the fact remains none of them stayed home.
Yep.
But he's chosen to stay home. He very much embraces that. Like I want to start the trend
Mm-hmm.
of guys staying home. Like we are a hotbed for basketball. Why do we have to leave to fulfill our dreams? So long-winded answer, but yeah, I've seen it from the beginning. So we've been giving him tips. We send videos to him. I still watch film. I'm an avid film watcher. We send him things behind the scenes, and he's a 16-year-old kid. And what people need to understand is even Steph Curry gets lessons, and his dad and people
Right.
around him tell him things. So you
Mm-hmm.
never stop learning, no matter how great they're perceived. And that's our motto right now. Like, we're always going to keep pouring into him, but we have to keep pouring into ourselves, so we keep learning about new trends, new ways for him to play, so we can help him in the best way possible.
I think him being receptive to all that kind of coaching and teaching and taking advice from different people says a lot about him too. When you've been the number one guy in your recruiting class, I think there are some guys that naturally think, there's nothing left for me to learn, or I don't need to listen to anybody. So I think
I mean, it speaks to our village, though. Like,
that's
Ibrahim
true.
put together, everybody that's in our circle
Mm-hmm.
has been there from the beginning.
That's cool.
Like, we've all had our own basketball journeys, but we've known him and their family. All of our families know each other. So it's very much a family situation here. So he can trust that, what we're telling him is to help him get better, not just to be a contrarian, not just to tell him what he wants to hear, right? It's meaningful things. So that's where we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so you guys have been doing some awesome work for him throughout this recruitment process here on the content side of things. You got the YouTube channel. It's his name at YouTube, so everybody go check it out. If you're not already locked in and subscribed, you should be. First of all, it's really well put together. I texted you after a couple of them that I thought they were just like a really good way to tell that story about what that visit is like for those of us who will never experience it. But how did that come about? Like, did he mention one day, like, hey, how do I go about making content, or how did this kind of come up?
We've been talking internally about, if you follow him for a number of years, all of the content has been shared content or collaborated content
Mm-hmm.
from other entities. And, as we start to build his brand, he's getting closer to making his college decision. Our job is to look ahead for him. Okay, you're cool now, but you're not a household name. And I live in LA now. So I'm speaking to the big brands and the national brands, the international brands, and we want to make his name a household name worldwide. And to start that, you have to have your own digital footprint, create your own content, and be intentional about the content that you put out, because he has a lot of layers to him that you're starting to see peel back through the series. And, that's something that was our goal, was so people can know who Baba is. They know he's a talent on the court,
Sure.
right? And who he is. And as an extension of who he is, who is his family and the people that kind of shape his world. And that's what we're showing through the series. And, I presented it to, Ibrahim, his dad. And we have the type of relationship we talk regularly. So, and then what helped was he saw what I was doing with Imported already.
Sure.
So, I'm pretty sure he had been pitched by other content creators and things like that. But once he saw that I did a full length featured film on the Walt Disney Network and
Right.
did on that level, it's kind of like, all right, Mike knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And, but that's how we operate. Like, I'm not playing on our personal relationship. If I didn't feel I could do the job,
Sure.
I would be doing him a disservice just by saying I want to do it. And I felt I can do the job. I had a crash course in the film industry the last 3 years. So bringing all of that knowledge to the table so he can benefit from it. And by the way, my fault, Matt, we have an amazing team. Like, our videographers, Ayush, Tyree, Brandon Holcomb, and our editor, Ujosh Patel, he's in New York, like, an amazing team. So it's not just me. I'm the eyes and the production and, a lot of the things to make this thing go, but they do all of the technical things.
Yeah, any kind of content of that nature, it takes like a crew of people to get done, and I think that's really cool. The behind the scenes that go into that too. And last night, I'm sure, especially just getting all that set up and prepped in advance, and making sure all the shots and the angles are right, and the audio for something like that to do in person so everyone can hear you, but also stream it so everyone can hear you. Stuff like that takes a lot of work and prep, and you probably can't get in the gym early. So kudos to you guys for pulling it off and making sure it went well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, like I said, our guys are very professional. We run a tight ship. So, we couldn't get on the court until maybe 30 minutes before the stream was scheduled to start. So, and then we had all of the local media, national media that were there trying to take up real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had to work around that. But it was a beautiful, chaotic scene, because all that meant was everybody was here to see Baba and share in this moment. And that's how we looked at it. It was just these people were here to celebrate him. And so with that in mind, it was an amazing thing. But, with any event, there's going to be logistical things you have to overcome. So, we're pretty even keeled when it comes to that.
His college decision last night, 26,000 views on YouTube, which is pretty crazy. I think the Maryland recruitment video or visit video is getting closer to that every day. So Terps fans, if you haven't checked that out already, I would definitely recommend it. So you were on that visit. You show up in the video there for a little bit. So I know you got to see the firsthand what that experience was like. Could you tell on the Maryland visit? They're like, oh, this is striking a chord. Was there something about that trip that felt like it really kind of stuck with him?
Well, I mean, like he said in his first interview on Fox 5, like Seth Allen, Seth
Sure.
was kind of our lead, former Terp player
Hmm.
and a pro professional himself. He was very instrumental in, just showing us everything. He was very open, but he was relatable as well. And that's
Hmm.
something that Ibrahim said on the trip several times was he felt great that they had people that weren't too far removed from their own playing careers that could get on
Hmm.
the court with them because
That's cool.
that's what our circle is. Even though we're helping him in different things in and around basketball, all of us in our circle can all get on the court with him
Hmm.
because we all had our own basketball careers,
Yep.
whether it's collegiately or overseas. And so that was one of the things that he was looking at. One of the many things that went into the
Sure.
decision was Seth Allen, and then Aki Collins. Aki
Hmm.
was very instrumental just with everything from on the court, off the court, communication, and then of course Buzz. Buzz is got to know him a little bit. He's a very straightforward guy.
Sure. I
He's
like
a
that.
very matter of fact, and Ibrahim's a guy that, and Baba himself too. They like the directness,
Hmm.
right, and the candidness. If he didn't know something, he didn't posture as if he did. He was like, "Look, I don't know," but he was confident in what he knew. He asked questions when, like, even with the content, he asked me so many questions
That's cool.
just about the content space. And, this is new for some of these coaches
Sure.
having cameras in the gym because everybody has different philosophies. Like
Yep.
some of the other visits, you can tell they're used to the cameras being there
Hmm.
and just working around it. But for him, he was asking a lot of questions. And that's how we got to know each other was through the content
That's
conversations.
cool.
But but yeah, just like obviously Bob has sisters that go there already, so he's very
Sure.
familiar with the campus. He went to a few games last year, this year. He went to the Rutgers game where Dylan Harper and
Ace Bailey.
Ace Bailey played. So it was a good environment.
Hmm.
So we've that was some of the things that we saw on the trip that really stood out to me. And obviously they'll have their own perspective and viewpoint, but through our internal conversations, those were some of the things that they liked. And obviously being 20 minutes from their home is,
Sure.
you know, that's something that some of these other schools just couldn't compete with.
His dad was so funny dropping the it's 7,000 extra minutes I would waste going back and forth to DC. DC traffic is as somebody who drives through DC traffic every day. That's something I can very much relate to. So I don't blame him for wanting to avoid that. But this
Uh,
is you talked about like this is a guy that's blazing a different path here. You leave somewhere like DeMatha, you go to Blake. He wanted to be close to home, around his friends. Like that's not something guys of his caliber player do anymore. Like it takes a certain amount of I don't know of stones to be brave enough to do something different, and I think that's cool that he's not really at least outwardly seemingly like he's worried about those kinds of things. He just wants to do that, and also just wanting to be like a normal kid around your friends is like a refreshing thing to hear about too.
Yeah, yeah. So that was one of the things that stood out to me about Baba through this process. Because if I'm being honest, we're a crew and a family of faith, right?
Sure.
Jesus Christ is, our rock and our foundation. And if I'm being honest, the only thing I was worried about was actually because I played at Good Counsel High School, I
Mm.
played at Blake High School. I know what the WCAC is like. Obviously I played on Nike Circuit, he's played on EYBL. There's a different level of basketball when you go to public school,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes it's not as overt as you
Mhm.
might think, but you go back door, the pass is a little late behind you.
Sure.
The communication is a little different. He's been trained by the best coaches and trainers in the world, in addition to his father, and
Mhm.
everybody else that's helped him in his matriculation. So my conversation to him was like, you're going to have to be a professional now,
Yeah.
and that's what he did, freshman year, great freshman year coming in there, then obviously making all Met, as a sophomore. So, he he's even killed. Like the kid you see, like I've never seen him frustrated, flustered. He's still having fun out there. Even on a lot of the visits, he's moving around as if he's not being evaluated. So I think
Right.
he has a healthy balance of confidence, ignorance, um, just not knowing or maybe not even appreciating what's going on and not
Sure.
making it too big, which is something that has served him throughout this whole process.
That speaks to like a secure person in themselves to be able to just kind of carry themselves that way, and that I think that'll serve him well on the basketball court here too. You've seen the growth of his game. You know what he looked like 2 years ago on the court versus now. Where have you seen him improve? Is there anything? he's working on? Is there anything you're telling him that, hey,
Mhm.
for the next level, you really got to do X, Y, and Z?
I mean, so we have a policy that we celebrate in public, criticize behind closed doors. So I'm not going to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
too
that's fair.
much,
Sure.
but obviously, like as any young player that's developing, there's always nuances of the game,
Hmm.
spacing, angles, reads that we're going to constantly be working on until he decides he doesn't want to play basketball anymore.
Sure.
So, but you've seen a growth in his game in terms of his strength. He's getting downhill a little more. He's not just settling for jump shots. He's going to be posting up a lot more this season, and he's always been a point guard. And I think that's something that through this season, people are going to see that we knew from the beginning because he wasn't supposed to be. I say he's 7 feet. He doesn't like when I say that because I mean he's very close to 7 feet at this
Yeah.
point. And if you look at his body structure, he's going to continue to grow. But for somebody that he was only supposed to be 6'5",
Mm.
like that's what the doctor said.
Sure.
And so we trained him as a point guard
Hmm.
from the beginning. So he is a point guard. If you really watch his game, he's a great passer. He makes great reads. But because he's so prolific as a shooter and scorer, people kind of just group him and minimize his game to just being a scorer.
Right.
But what I think will happen, he alluded to it, when he made his interviews yesterday, that's one thing that, Buzz and the staff are going to allow him to do is play with the ball in his hands.
Hmm.
And I think once people see that, I don't think people have seen the best of Baba yet,
That's cool.
which is scary.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think Terp fans should be looking forward to that because he literally can do everything on the basketball court.
We've even seen for Maryland this year, Pharrell Payne, bring the ball up the court and things like that as more of a traditional center. So Buzz will let his guys rock, and that's
Yeah.
exciting to think about the marriage there. Uh, Anything that you want to share about this process or anything or anything that you learned for your own benefit moving forward from doing this that you think would be interesting for Terps fans or listeners here?
I mean, without giving away too much, because we do want everybody going to the channel and
That's
watching
absolutely
all
right.
of the episodes. So
Yep.
we have a lot more content coming out. So it's not
Okay.
just about the visits and the commitment. Now we're going to be following him through his senior season. We're going to be
That's cool.
following him through him learning how to drive. We're going to be, some of his interests that I'm not going to reveal as yet, but he has some
Sure.
very unique interests that will speak more to just how intellectual he is
That's
and
cool.
things like that. So Maryland, they're getting a whole person, right? Even though he's still developing, he's very mature for his age, right? He's only 16.
Mhm.
Like people might forget that, and you might see him, and until you're around him, you realize he's still a 16-year-old. So he's somebody that's still developing, but for where he is now with everything that's been on him pressure wise and eyeballs and just popularity, he's handled it extremely well. And I think you saw that on the stream yesterday where his teammates, I told him that was the thing that
That's
stood
cool.
out to me the most about yesterday was just how much his teammates, really, are happy for him,
Hmm.
truly happy for him. Like they were
Right.
at his interviews, they genuinely were cheering for him. And I told him that speaks to you and how you've treated them
Yeah.
because you have the light on you, you have the responsibility. Like you could have treated them one way, you could treat them another way, and you've chosen to treat them the right way. And so, I commended him for that yesterday. And a lot of stuff that we talk about is I'm not just proud of him as a basketball player, just as a person. Because he has a platform that is going to be able to literally change the world through sport. And so, these are the conversations that we have behind closed doors. So, they're getting a good person, not just a great basketball player.
I'm glad you guys put this specific moment in because I thought it was really cool. During the Maryland visit, Buzz Williams asked him if he's a good student, and he says, "Great student," and he's
Yeah.
smiling while he does it, and seemed like very proud to let everybody know like he's good in the classroom too. So I just love stuff like
But that's
that,
that's
and
his mom. His mom handles,
that's
they
cool.
have a really great organization in terms of the family dynamic. And, obviously Ibrahim, his dad is very forward facing. He's a big presence himself. He's 6'8",
Mhm.
so he's pretty noticeable. But his mom, Desiree, she does a lot of the admin stuff behind the scenes that really makes this thing go.
That's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
everything about it was just first class. So kudos to you. It's another thing to add to the resume here of putting really great stuff together. And if there are
Yeah.
any other young aspiring players in the area that are looking to do something like this, you know who to reach out to if you want first rate content for it. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for shedding some light on everything here for Terps fans and getting us a little behind the scenes. It's just cool to hear about honestly what again is the biggest recruitment in my lifetime as a Terps fan. I think so. This was awesome. I'm glad we got to do this again. For anybody who doesn't know, Mike and I did a podcast for a while before we got a little too busy with some other stuff coming
Yeah.
up, but got to talk about overseas hoops, a passion of both of ours. Mike obviously is taking that much further, and and turned it into, again, a great documentary on both Hulu and Disney Plus, imported. If you've not checked that out, go do it, and go subscribe to the Baba Oladotun YouTube channel as well. More stuff to come here. Mike, any parting thoughts for Terps fans?
No, like, first of all, thank you to the Terp, basketball family for allowing us to come and have, unbottled access, to their recruiting process, which a lot of times isn't easy for programs to do, just because some of it might be proprietary and, they don't want their trade secrets getting out. But, they gave us unbottled access, and, I'm personally excited because he is nearby. We can continue the development, and yeah, I'm just excited. I'll be making a lot more flights from LA now.
There you go.
So,
Well, we're happy to have you back in the area. So next time you're going to be at a Blake game, let me know. I'm going to make the trip over. I got to see him in person for the senior year here, because I think it's going to be a movie, as the kids say, or used to say, back in the day. So, all right. Thank you for doing this. Good luck with everything, and look forward to seeing more content to come.
oh, thanks, Matt, and great podcast. This is amazing.
Thanks, man. All right, everybody. You know the drill. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button for us, rate, review, subscribe, all the good stuff. More to come here, and we'll be talking about Baba and his senior year throughout the course of things here. So looking forward to more of that for everybody. And until then, fear the podcast.